The following program was sponsored by Guerra Wealth Advisors.
Welcome to Retirement Ready with Guerra Wealth Advisors. The team at Guerra Wealth Advisors has been helping families in Florida get to the point where work is an option and not an obligation. On this show, Sebastian Guerra will help you learn about strategies for creating income in retirement, managing your wealth, and minimizing taxes. Welcome to Retirement Ready with Guerra Wealth Advisors.
Welcome to Retirement Ready with Guerra Wealth Advisors. I'm Kelli Dame. And joining me today are Sebastian Guerra, Financial Advisor and President of Guerra Wealth Advisors, and Jimmy Cardentey, Senior Wealth Advisor. Now, many of us plan for vacations, a new home, or even our retirement, but how much time have we spent thinking about what happens to our assets after we're gone? Estate planning is one of the most important but often overlooked aspects of financial wellness. And today, Sebastian and Jimmy will help us understand what estate planning is, how it works, and why it matters. And later in our Guerra Freedom Minute, Sebastian will walk us through some common estate planning blind spots that could impact your family's future. First, welcome, Sebastian, Jimmy. Great to have you guys with me today.
Thank you so much for having us, Kelly. This is awesome. I love this.
It's same. One of my favorite parts of the week. Now, I do have some exciting things back here if I need it for a rainy day, including this lock and key, right? You never know what else is back there. But this makes me think of when we're talking about estate planning, we may see these a dime a dozen as people are locking up their bikes on South Beach, or maybe in the back of their yard, they've got a shed that they're trying to lock up their valuables, right? So why would we not try to do the exact same thing with one of our most valuable assets, the estate that we have, right? We work so hard for it. So, Sebastian, I want to start with you. If you'd like this lock and key, go for it. It's got many uses, but I want to talk to you about estate planning. First and foremost, what is it that we're talking about here today?
So pretty much what estate planning is all about is, the day that we eventually get to the point that we can't make decisions on our own anymore, whether we're, in our late 70s or 80s and, God forbid something were to happen to our health, that we can't make decisions anymore. Who are the people that are going to be making decisions on our behalf? Is it going to be our children? Is it going to be our spouses? Is it going to be a friend or family member? And then the final element is who's going to get everything that we leave behind? Is it going to be our children, our spouse? Who's going to receive all of the assets that we leave behind? And so with estate planning, in simple words, what it is you want to make sure that what you want to happen will happen even if you're not here to see it happen. And I think that's what estate planning in simple words, that's what it means.
Okay. Easy to understand, maybe not as easy to implement. So what are some of the documents that are required when you're starting to put together your estate plan?
So I think the first thing, Kelly, is you want to make sure that you're talking with an estate planning attorney to design all of this, right? This isn't enough just to hear this information and go and implement all of this. You want to make sure you're meeting with a legal team to draft up all of these documents. But the first thing that you want to look into is something called the will, which will pretty much outline all of your assets and who gets everything when you're not here. The other thing you want to look into are powers of attorneys, right? So who's going to be making financial decisions for you when you can't make financial decisions on your own? Are you really going to appoint your spouse? Are you going to appoint your children? Maybe you're going to appoint one child in specific because maybe you trust that child with money a little bit more than your other children. So you want to make sure that all of those documents are drafted up. And then the third document that I think is very important is your healthcare directive, right? Who is going to be the person that you are going to assign to make medical and healthcare decisions on your behalf? Is it going to be your spouse? Is it going to be a child? Is it going to be multiple children? And you want to make sure that all of this stuff is documented, because if it's not documented, that's exactly how you have families fight over money, fight over decisions, because you have not done the job of documenting all of this before that event eventually happens.
Now, Jimmy, I think when we talk about estate planning, a lot of people assume that it really kicks in when someone passes away. But much like the lock and key, right, there also is a protection aspect for people who are living. Explain that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Estate planning is not just for when you're no longer here. It's also having guidance when you are, and you cannot make your own decisions. Like Sebastian said, it ensures that what you want to happen will happen, and that includes your health and your financial decisions. And the biggest thing here is trust. Who is the person, or rather the people, that you trust with such important things in your lives? And according to one's wishes during their lifetime, you tend to choose the people that you trust the most to help you in that area.
This can be probably a tough topic, I think, for maybe people to talk about. leaving their legacy, what happens when they're gone. How do you guys handle situations like these that are maybe a little bit more sensitive and require a little bit more of a conversation and intuition?
Yeah. I think that, sometimes we see at our office a lot of, couples have this conversation just amongst themselves. And it's very sad what ends up happening because they many times are arguing. And they're arguing because, one of them wants to leave maybe more money to one child because maybe they need it more. And then the other is saying, no, we should split it equally, because that's the way it should be. Then you have some spouses, some marriages where it's their second or third marriage. And now how do you make that decision between, I want to go and leave some money to my children for my first marriage, but at the same time, I've been with my wife or with my spouse for the last 27 years. And I want to make sure that he or she is also okay. So you run into these challenges of deciding who eventually receives all your money when you're not here. And so I'm a really big believer in just making sure that you have a middle person in the conversation that can really guide and steer the conversation because you know that they're making sure that both elements are being factored in.
And this, like so many things we're talking about on our show, require having that plan, putting it together, because the last thing you want to do is to have it happen when you can't do anything more about it. So much more to come on this and other topics. Coming up next, we're going to discuss trusts, how they work, and the difference between revocable and irrevocable trusts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work toward your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
Many people have heard of trusts, but may not understand how they work or why some people choose to include them in their estate plan. So I think that's where we should start, Sebastian, setting the groundwork and explaining what exactly is a trust.
Yeah, so I think one of the first things that we want to start thinking about is when you're going through the process of designing your trust, this is normally done with some sort of legal team, right? Normally you're meeting with an estate planning attorney and you're drafting up all of these legal documents. And pretty much what you're creating is you're creating its own separate entity that's going to eventually hold all of your assets when you're alive or even when you're not here. And in simple words, that's what a trust is. You're just drafting up legal documents with specific rules and outlines of the way you want your assets to be managed while you're alive and also when you're not here.
But much like financial planning, it's not as simple as it may seem. So there are actually different types of trusts, two main ones that we want to talk about today. So Jimmy, take us through this first one.
Yeah, there's many different kinds of trusts, and it really depends on your situation and your needs. And it's important to have a team that outlines your needs first before recommending that. But the first kind is a revocable trust. And what a revocable trust is, it's a trust that allows you to make changes while you are alive. Typically, the person who creates a trust is called the grantor. And while you're alive, you are the grantor, and you are essentially the beneficiary of the trust until you are no longer here.
Okay.
And in simple words, I guess if you're explaining a little bit of what the revocable trust is, an irrevocable trust is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, right? So you're going to outline all of your wishes of exactly what you want to happen with all of your assets. But once you design all of it, you pretty much can't change it. And what we normally see is that people that are creating irrevocable trusts, there's a little bit more strategy from an estate planning standpoint. And that's why a lot of wealthier people, they tend to use irrevocable trusts. And so, we'll get into that probably a little bit later. But I think the important thing is, irrevocable trusts tend to be used a little bit on the wealthier side. Revocable living trusts are for people that want to make changes to their trust, to the way it's structured while they're still alive.
Is it fair to say that making that decision, I know you mentioned maybe some more wealthy versus less wealthy, but are there any other, is it just like based on someone's needs and wants, whether they choose one over the other?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has also to do with what your specific goals are, right? And so once you're designing your trust, you're putting specific rules of the way you want your assets to be managed while you're alive and even when you're not here. And if you're an individual that wants to set everything up in such a way that you can make changes along the way, then you're definitely going to want to create something that's called a revocable living trust. But again, you want to make sure that you're meeting with your legal and estate planning team so that they can give you guidance on the way to set this up the right way. And so normally what we see at our office is that a lot of people will design the revocable living trust, and then 3 months later or 3 years later, something changes in their life, right? They now had a new grandchild, and now they might want to make changes to the revocable living trust because now they have a new child in their family's life. And sometimes we've seen some stories where, the child or your son, your daughter ends up stealing money from you. And so that might, want you to make changes in the case that if something like that were to happen, maybe you don't want to leave as much money to that one child because maybe they did something. And so if you are creating a revocable living trust, then it's going to give you the freedom to make changes throughout your entire life.
You mentioned a legal team, and I think I want to dive in a little bit more on, especially here in South Florida, we have people who think that they know exactly what should happen with financial planning, and they've got the one-stop shop solution. But Jimmy, I want to talk a little bit about what kind of sets Guerra Wealth Advisors apart, where there's an advisory team, not just an advisor that you're working with. And oh, by the way, one of those departments is a legal department, right?
Yeah. I'll give a perfect example. We were meeting with a family the other day, and they had mentioned, hey, I have a cousin who is an attorney, and I'm already working on that area in my life. And one question I asked was, where are you in that process? And they said, well, we're already in the process of getting a draft. And I said, oh, that's amazing. You're working on it. Fantastic. Let me ask you, did your attorney ask you how much you're worth? And they were kind of shocked at that. They were like, why would they have to know that? And after sitting with them and understanding their financial picture, their net worth was over $6 million. Now they have 2 minor children, all that stuff. So after finding that information out, they said, well, we probably should add a lot more things to this than we had thought originally. So it's not simple in terms of your wishes. And sometimes we don't know what we want. You might have kids, you might have blended family situations or desires. Maybe you're charitably inclined. But unless you're asked very good questions, and most of the time your financial advisory team can do, there is a gap if you don't have that blend.
And then, of course, as you need, you can bring in members of the department throughout Guerra Wealth Advisors that can come in, help with this situation, and kind of really create that customized plan. Another thing that you guys also say is just you want to make work an option, right? Which I love. And I would love for you to tell our viewers a little bit more about what exactly you guys mean by that.
Yeah. So, we're talking about estate planning and just making sure that, the day that you're not here, everything will happen with your assets, even if you're not here to see it happen. But, one of the challenges that we see with a lot of people as they're entering the stage of retirement is, they might say things like, well, I love my job, and I'm pretty much going to work as long as I possibly can. And so, we believe that, retirement isn't getting to the stage of life where I'm not working. Retirement is getting to a point in life where I work because I want to and not because I have to, right? And that we're working out of pure desire and not out of necessity. And I think all of that can be mapped out when you build a solid retirement income plan. But I see a lot of people out there that they're thinking about, hey, I want to make sure that my children, my grandchildren are okay. I want to make sure I leave them millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what they're not thinking about is the fact that do they even have enough money to carry them through all of retirement? Because they're already thinking of legacy, but they're not thinking about what about the next 20 or 30 years, which is that retirement period.
The thing is that, I said earlier, sometimes with financial planning, it's not so simple. But in the case of wanting to start a plan, it is just as simple as having a conversation, which I think is important to start. And then you've got people, of course, that can help you lay out the rest of it. So great insights, great conversation. Thank you, gentlemen. Coming up next, we'll talk about some advanced estate planning strategies that people may consider depending on their circumstances. Stay with us.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your healthcare is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
Welcome back to the show. We're here on Retirement Ready today. We are talking about estate planning. So, Sebastian, what are some strategies that people might start to explore if they have complex estates or significant assets that they need to worry about?
So I think one of the things that we notice usually when we meet with a family is, a lot of people come to us to help them, map out their retirement, make sure their investment strategy is in place. And as we're meeting with them, or we're talking to them about their investment strategy, many times we have these conversations of what their net worth is. And some people have 5, 10, 15, $30 million in assets. And now the question is, well, do these people probably need something a little bit more complex? And many times, when we meet up with our estate planning team and making sure that all of this stuff is drafted out the right way, we start looking into other types of strategies. And so, there's some types of strategies such as grants or annuity trust that can be created as well, which is normally used as a way to maximize the wealth from a transfer standpoint when you're obviously not here. And that can obviously minimize the gift tax as well, which is a very big element on how to minimize estate taxes when you're not here. Some people want to implement things like charitable remainder trusts, which can allow you to still donate money to charity, but at the same time, you're minimizing taxes along the way. So, families that are a little bit more charitably inclined, they give money to charity on a yearly basis, or they eventually want to give money to charity in the future. This is a phenomenal strategy that some of them can be implementing, which can, put more money, back into your pocket, less money to Uncle Sam, and give a little bit more money to charity. And for individuals that have like life insurance policies, they can set up things like ILITs. They're called irrevocable life insurance trusts, where you can pretty much grab your life insurance policy of $3 million, $5 million, $20 million. And instead of just having a traditional life insurance policy, you create what's called an irrevocable life insurance policy, which will allow the assets of that life insurance, call it, $10 million of life insurance or $5 million, whatever the dollar amount is, just goes into this trust, and it can technically potentially avoid the estate tax when the person's not here. And so these higher net worth individuals that have multi-million dollars, I think that one of the things they have to be very concerned about is estate taxes. And if they don't have a plan on how to minimize the estate tax, this can affect the family massively when they're not here.
Yeah, you said that terrible 3-letter word there, tax. So, Jimmy, when it comes to estate planning, I always think estate tax is coming right back behind it. So let's talk a little bit more about ways that can impact the planning process.
That's a great point. As we know, so many changes happen in the financial world, right? And taxes is a big part of that. Tax laws change over time, and that's why it's so important to work with a team of professionals that includes legal, tax, and helps you develop a strategy that not only fits your goals, but that is proactive, not just reactive.
Yep, that's the key, being proactive, having that plan, and knowing also that plan is not the same for the person on your left that it may be for the person on your right. So coming up next, we are actually going to answer some of the common estate planning questions that you may have at home. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
Welcome back. We are diving a bit deeper today into some common estate planning questions that people may have. Maybe even you at home have this exact question. So let's say that someone has multiple children, multiple adult children, and they really want to avoid any of those disputes over inheritance, which happen. So what are some ways that you guys address that?
So Kelly, I think it's a crazy story because sometimes we at our office, we see this happen all the time, where you have these, families coming in, couples coming in, and they have, investments, retirement accounts, real estate, businesses. And, you ask them the question, like, do you want your children to know about what you have? And some people say, I don't want my kids to know anything. And it sounds initially like a very good thing, but usually what ends up happening is, 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, Kelly, now these children end up inheriting everything. But now you might have stipulated specific rules in your trust or your legal documents or your beneficiaries where certain children get more money. And when the children don't know these things, I mean, Kelly, how do you think the children feel when they find out that their brother or their sister ended up getting, an extra $100,000 or $500,000 more? Now that can create a lot of problems between siblings, between family. And it was all because you as the parent didn't, sit down with the family and explain to them everything that was going to happen when they're not here. And so, we're a very big believer in just making sure that you're having these conversations, with the family from the very beginning. You want to make sure your financial planning team is involved, your legal team is involved, your estate planning attorney is involved, and you're having an honest conversation with your family about all of these things because, I can't tell you how many families end up hating each other, years later because you guys didn't have the conversation earlier on. And so this estate planning topic is a very sensitive one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, let's imagine we'll take the kids out of the equation. They've been naughty. They get nothing, right? And charity is maybe an area of focus. Jimmy, how do you strategize and structure around giving to charity as part of this plan?
That's a great point. We're very encouraging of giving to communities that can really make a difference in the places that we live. So those are conversations that we have. We look at families and we ask, hey, do you give right now? Do you give to nonprofit organizations? Do you give to hospitals? Do you give to churches? So one thing that we see families do is they'll name a beneficiary, a charity. And that's one that you trust, love, and respect. And some of the times you'll have families create what's called charitable remainder trusts so that they can give wholeheartedly to organizations that they believe will manage the money well. And another option that we see families do is establish what's called a donor advised fund, which structures charitable contributions over time. So if you are someone that is charitably inclined, well, guess what? There's an option for you as well.
Great. Now, I know that you guys also work a lot with small business owners in South Florida. So, Sebastian, let's say that there's a small business owner who maybe passes away. They own an LLC or whatever the case may be. What happens to that business in these instances?
This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see families go through, right? You know, you have a business owner that maybe they have like their own small business, or maybe you're just a business owner that has an LLC and you have some real estate that is owned by that LLC. But now the question is, what happens with that LLC? What happens with that corporation when you're not here? And so if you don't have everything drafted up in your operating agreement in your LLC, where you want to make sure that certain assets go to certain people, this can create a big problem for your family, because now all of these businesses will have to go through a process called probate. And if they go through probate, now that can cost your family tens of thousands of dollars. You know, the average cost in the state of Florida is about 3 to 5% of the entire net worth of a family that whatever ends up going through probate. So imagine your business, Kelly, is worth $1 million. You have real estate worth another couple $1 million. You have bank accounts worth another couple $1 million. And you begin to add up 3 to 5% of multiple millions of dollars. This can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in just probate costs, just simply because they didn't draft up all their legal documents in their estate planning process.
Not to mention the amount of time as well, getting stuck in the courts also, something certainly you want to avoid. Now, if someone hasn't reviewed their estate plan, maybe it's been 5 years, 10 years, when do they want to go back and maybe revisit that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The number one thing, again, is to have a partnership with your financial advisory team and your estate planning team. You know, take my case, for example. My wife and I have certain stipulations now that if my kids understood what they are, they wouldn't be too happy about it. I mean, I plan on spending 95% of my wealth with my wife. But the reality is, as my kids get older and they check off the boxes of the things that we want, we'll have to update that. So what we see is most families will update their estate plan roughly every 2 to 3 years. And again, that's circumstantial, but the reality is that has to be reviewed based on your wishes. And that demands having a financial advisory and estate planning team that is on top of your situation.
This is also not a passive situation where you just sit back, like you mentioned. It's important to have a front row seat, right, to your life and your retirement, but it also can be really stressful, right, Jimmy? I mean, I can imagine there's so many things to be keeping track of.
Yeah, I think one thing that we want to encourage families is that you don't have to do this alone. The idea of getting to freedom is so that you can truly enjoy it. And when you start thinking about all of the aspects and pieces that are involved in your financial puzzle, it can get overwhelming. And I think that people need to understand that you not only need help, you deserve help. And that's why people like us exist.
Say no more. Great words to leave you all with. Thank you guys so much. Well, estate planning involves many complex factors. Working with a team of qualified professionals can help individuals develop a plan that fits their specific needs. For Sebastian Guerra and Jimmy Cardentey of Guerra Wealth Advisors, I'm Kelli Dame. Have a great day and an even better legacy.
The preceding program was sponsored by Guerra Wealth Advisors.